Well, don't have it seen. Are we live now?
Yep.
It's super quiet. You can barely hear it, dude.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. There you go. John, why are you wearing a mask when you're playing this? You don't want anybody to recognize you?
There you go, Stevie Ray Vaughan, ladies and gentlemen.
Yo, yo,
Let me
yo.
turn that off. Welcome to the show. We are live. Just a little
I
50
thought that was
bucks.
you incognito, man. You've been
You thought that
practicing
was
a
me
lot.
playing? $50 to anybody that can name that song. You don't have much time. A couple people watching. If you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, go ahead and chime in where you're calling from. But here we go. What are we talking about tonight, Craig? We got something.
What did Margot say? Yeah, being comfortable with uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, I
That's
think
reasonable.
you know, I think the further along you get in your career, the more experience you get, the more you don't really give a shit, and you don't need the business. You become less needy, so you can have uncomfortable conversations because you really don't care,
Yeah.
right? I don't care tomorrow if I close an account. I know the numbers. I know they're going to fall, so I'm going to say what I want to say. That's my style. I mean, okay, maybe your style's not being uncomfortable, Craig, right? Maybe it's not.
Yeah,
You
I
need
think
some.
that's the important word. It's what's uncomfortable for one person is comfortable for somebody else. So you really, at the end of the day, everything boils down to your style.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Hoffer says YouTube. Chris Hoffer. Oh, he's on YouTube. Okay,
Yo,
he's calling
Chris.
from Oklahoma, I think, over there, working on one of his cases today.
Yeah,
Um,
we got a lot of these newbies or just, it just depends on your style. We've all worked with a lot of different kind of brokers, advisors, consultants, and everybody has a different style. And your point was well taken. When your book's a certain size or your lifestyle is a certain lifestyle, your W-2 is a certain level, usually you've got a skill set of the way you sell that kind of reflects what level you're at. And like you said, John, as you get better and you become more successful and there's more evidence of that success.
But when you start paying over $1,000 a day in income tax, you know,
There
you
you
get
go. Yeah, that's easy.
yeah.
That you don't sound needy, you don't sound desperate, and you're willing to have conversations to go, look, there's nothing uncomfortable about trying to get to the truth. And at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, is to get to the truth. And a lot of the prospects out there are extremely skilled, conscious or not, at hiding the truth from you. And so at the end of the day, the game is, can you get them to be vulnerable and share with you the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the struggles, the challenges that they have, and tell you the truth?
Yeah, I think you've got to make them. Let me take my blue light glasses off. I think you got to make them uncomfortable as soon as possible. Sometimes, look, they're going to play these guys, especially if you meet with an owner, you meet with sharp guys. Listen, we think we're sharp. We're owning a company here. We're selling insurance. We're making good money. But at the end of the day, you're dealing with a 50 life employer, 100 life employer, 150, whatever it is. Not talking publicly traded when it gets bigger or private equity owned. But this guy built a monster company with monster employees. He's sharper than you. Okay. He's better than you. He's playing you in that meeting. And if he's in control, if you watch, our buddy Warren Clef stuff, frame control, you've got to set the frame in the beginning of the conversation, in the beginning of the meeting, right, Craig? And you've got to make him uncomfortable where he kind of pulls back a little bit with the frame control and go, shit, I'm not in control, and this guy's coming right at me. And
Yeah.
and look, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, if you can't get out of the prospect what you're looking to get out of, you are wasting your time. Okay? He's going to play you. Buyers are liars, and they're going to lie and tell you. Just sit back. Sometimes you got to reflect, right? When we do these shows, Craig, you have to go and look at, we're teaching or training. We have to go back and look at what we actually did and see what's actually happening, right? And you got to realize, okay, are these meetings going well for me? Are they
Yeah.
not? What are the things that I'm saying that gets the answers I want? And do I know my numbers in the sense of, look, I know I'm going to see X amount of people, right? And X amount of people are going to say yes if I do these things right. But if I do a little bit more and I push a little bit more, maybe I can squeeze that out. I always said it's like, if you close, talking about cold calls, if you close 1 in 10 accounts, old boss that I first started in the business to work for, he said, look, John, if you close 1 in 10 accounts, you can make a lot of money. And so I always said, well, how do I get to 1.5 to 2? Because that's a whole shit ton more money for me. It's a whole lot more success.
Yeah.
Right? How do I get there? Well, you can't be the everyday advisor. You can't go in. They're already right, Craig. They're already ready. 100 life company. Let's just use an example. Do you know how many salespeople come and pitch that CEO? Countless.
About something. Yeah.
Yeah. So he knows your story. He knows the salesman, the salesy talk. You raise the pitch of your voice. You're excited. Hey, Craig, is that you in space there? Do you go to space often? And where did you win those awards? Do you think he doesn't know that game? He
Yeah.
knows the game because he does it too. And so tonight we're talking about putting your prospect in a position where they're uncomfortable and maybe they start to give you the answers that you want. What do you say, Craig?
Yeah, it's what's that old story, prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. And so, a sophisticated, educated, experienced buyer will know who you are when you show up, throw up, and start right in with features and benefits, and they trap you, right? They trap the rookies with, well, so how would you manage the healthcare plan? What would you do? What kind of CPA would you go to? What PBM would you use? And then you show them how smart
Then we
you
go,
are.
we go. Yeah, I mean, I fell for it, and we're not beating everybody up on the show, and you're probably listening whether you're on the podcast or live. Good and chime in and laugh because we all do it. Even Craig, I've seen Craig do it. I've witnessed it in his office fall for the trap, and he fell into the trap. It just happens, right? Sometimes I get to tell them how smart I am, and they sold you. You didn't sell them, and they got everything they needed from you, and so the more I watched Craig when I would watch you in your office, fortunate enough to spend some time in California, in his office. I would just go in his office. I'd be on a laptop and I would sit and listen to his Zoom calls, right? And I would listen to the Zoom calls, and Craig would go through the whole call and never tell him anything about his solution. Nothing. Get him excited, this, that, and you're sitting there waiting for the punchline and it never comes, right? And their tongue's hanging out. What's your strategy on that, Craig? Why is it you do that?
Well, I guess it depends on who it is I'm talking to, but I prefer as a style, I like the takeaway. I I have no problem not being needy. And so, I was coaching one of my sales team earlier this morning. I sent him an email. He says, "Well, this guy from, ABC House said, "Hey, can you send me something that I can send to my clients?" And I said, "So when a broker advisor consultant tells you to go fetch a blue rock, you say, well, yeah, we have all sorts of things that would be appropriate, but I don't know anything about you. I don't know what your average size clients are. I don't know what percentage of your business is self-insured. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you practice. So why don't we have a phone conversation about those things to see if you qualify?" See, so for me, that's like a takeaway. I want them to know that this isn't, hey, if you can fog a mirror, we want to talk to you, right? We're a little more discerning. So I look for that in buyers who ask smart questions, and then it's easy to get them excited because you can tell by the questions they ask that they're intelligent and that they're thinking ahead. And so, yeah, I just don't go, oh, well, it does this and it does that and it does this. It's like there's no context. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the pre-frame to try and establish. So you said you had employee problems, and you've got turnover issues, and your boss is looking over your shoulder, and and so how does healthcare? What happens with healthcare? Hey, 1/3. Have you seen social media? 1/3 of all GoFundMe. You know what GoFundMe is? Oh, sure. 1/3 of all GoFundMes are to pay for medical expenses. What do you think about, just philosophically, that one of your medical plan options is GoFundMe? What do you think about that?
Great idea. It's a great idea. That's why people do it, because people feel need of giving when people are sick. I got a
Yeah.
story.
If your benefits were so good, your people wouldn't need GoFundMe. So, let let's provide some context there, right? If we look at this chart, right? 2020, if you just looked at the premium and the deductibles and added them up, it's more than 10% of the median pay in all 50 states. Some of the states are 15 to 18% of the median wage, just the premiums and the deductibles, to say nothing of the MOOP, the maximum out of pocket. That's criminal. That means you're completely inept at attempting to manage healthcare costs. And whoever you're paying to give you advice, they're inept also.
Yeah, I think yes men. Remember yes man? Yes man. Yes, yes, yes. And I think back, and I laugh because when you were doing it, and again, I always want to relay back, like, I'm not saying I never didn't do it. You were a yes man. You were desperate. I met Craig. He taught me how to say things or push back, and I knew I just did what he said. Have some fun with it. If you guys got some prospects meetings, right? Test it, right? If you ever ask a marketing professional like Craig's son, uh, and I asked him about a marketing idea, he'd be like, "Well, I don't know, test it." Never give you an answer. It's going to right or wrong.
Exactly.
Test it, right? And so in your next meeting, push back a little bit. Tell them, "No, I'm sorry. Maybe you're probably a little confused because you've had a lot of insurance brokers come in, and this is how they work. We're not one of those. Let me explain to you how we work." Remember that one time? It was a story. Was this guy, and I remember he was sitting at a big guy, right? Sitting at his desk, real. We're in Jersey, right? So people aren't, as nice maybe. And he calls his HR guy in. He's sitting next to me. And, I basically told him, no, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? I don't need to quote you. That's not going to do anything for me. Okay. And the HR guy is like, well, that's how you're gonna earn our business. I go, no, no.
What do you mean you don't quote?
Yeah,
That's what everybody does.
that's what you have to do to earn our business. I go, no, I don't. I go, you could get a line of insurance brokers out the door if you want for free quoting, but I'm not going to do that. So let me tell you how I work. And that's when I pitched a fee, and he got so mad. I remember he went like this, and he popped his stomach, a big belly, to the desk, and he's sliding towards me. It was hilarious, and you could tell I put him in a position where he's uncomfortable and he's not used to. Remember,
Yeah.
guys, you think you have an ego? You're making $500K. You're making $1 million. You're making $2.5 million a year in insurance. They're making more. They got 100 life company. They're laughing at $2 million a year. Okay, they might be taking a salary of $2 million a year, and so you think that they're put in a position where they're uncomfortable a lot, or somebody's frame controlling them? No, they know they're sitting in a seat where I'm the boss. I get to say yes to this guy. This guy wants my business. I'm a big shot. And that ego builds up when you're in that seat typically. Maybe not all around the country, but in Jersey, it definitely happens. And so you've got to show them you're on their level. You got to show him you're a peer, and then he'll respect you. He will respect you. I remember when people have come back at me, Craig, and I get a little bit more respect for him. And I back down too. You just naturally back down because somebody's barking more than you are. And you go, whoa, okay. And then you start to like it inside. You're, oh, this guy's like me. And so the whole
I've seen
story
it.
today is, go ahead.
More often than not, I think it's why a lot of immigrants, where they come from a country where everything's negotiated. I mean, going to the market, right? Because they don't have supermarkets. They go to the market every day to get their meals fresh. And everything's negotiated. They're negotiating on the fish, they're negotiating on the meat. They come to America and it's like, oh my God, these Americans are just pushovers. You push back a little and they go, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're weak. I mean, they're fighting for survival. I mean, when I went to Mexico, to Cabo, I was going to take this girl home. She was like 6, 7 years old. I said to the mother, I said, let me take her home. I'll bring her to America. I'll get her citizenship. Go make her a superstar salesperson. They're freaking selling at 7. They don't take no for an answer. They're persuasive. They've got pitch lines. They've got lines. You're coming off the boat from New York.
Yeah.
They're freaking coming up to the water, holding your hand, a little kid holding your hand to come off the thing, taking your bag, this and that, and has a whole strategy and a storyline to get your money, to get $1, whatever, which is worth a ton down there. And I laugh. I just give them the money when they're good. I just give them the money because they're good. But it's hysterical.
Yeah.
And in America, maybe we don't do it as much. Maybe we're a little bashful. Maybe we're a little
we can't get 15-year-olds. We can't get 15-year-olds to do that job. The old summer job. No, screw that. I'm not doing that. Yeah, it's a different world now.
Yeah, prepare to have uncomfortable conversations, and you've got to deal with. I know it's uncomfortable. Is silence, right? Have some silence in your next meeting.
Oh, I love silence. This, right?
Just practice this. Just practice this on your next meeting. Try it. And if you go, I don't want to do that because I might blow the meeting. That's because you don't have enough prospects, right?
100%.
So you're cautious. Remember, when you're needy,
you
have
scared.
Enough prospects. You're. That's all I got, John. I got some people I talk to like, oh, I went to see. I got 1 or 2 accounts last year. I go, well, how many appointments you have? 15. Well, that's why 15 meetings the whole year. How are you going to grow with that many meetings? You should be closing 15 clients a year at least. Maybe a little bit less. I don't like to close too many. I look at it as revenue, but still have an uncomfortable conversation. Craig, how do you have that conversation with a CFO? What are some things that you might push back or say to a CFO to make them uncomfortable? Where, they're more introverted people. They're not all Gary Benders.
Yeah.
They're introverted.
I talked to a guy the other day, right? A couple days ago. He said, he was part of his, they had a whole series of captives. I've never heard of these guys. I'm like, my God, there's so many of these things that come out of the woodwork. So he's telling me his background. He's a CPA, and he's got this gigantic whiteboard. It covers the whole screen behind him, and some of it's in red and some of it's in black. And I said, so he gets done talking his introduction. I said, well, I can see based on your background, you got a whole lot of red writing, right? And in accounting, that usually means not good. And then, you got the black ink. I said, so, you got these captives. I said, so, we talk to people like you. I mean, most CPAs, what do you like? Well, yeah, I can tell you what you don't like. You hate the uncertainty of having no idea what your claims costs are going to be, right? So your hospital's 30%, your surgical center's 20, and your pharmacy's 25, is 75% of your nut, and you have no idea what it's going to be. Now, you got a $200,000 unfunded liability called a self-insured retention limit, aka a spec deductible. I said, would it shock you to find out that instead of taking a $200,000 unfunded liability, you could have a $5,000 unfunded liability, knowing that the delta between those two is accretive to cash flow and EBITDA every year forever? I said, now that's an interesting conversation. Wouldn't you rather have certainty to know that my exposure is $5,000, not 200 grand as a CPA? And then I shut up and I let him talk. So I just pushed back in his face on, here's the way you manage risk. Here's the way you could manage risk. What do you think about that? And we had a lot more conversations, but of course, what do we do? We're having a second meeting. The purpose of every first meeting.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Hoff, we had a conversation the other day. He said, we go to savings on the telemarketing. What are the things should I say to a CFO? I said, the first person to ask is Craig, but I don't care what you say in a cold call because you're selling sizzle to get the meeting. When you get there, that's a whole different conversation. But maybe you want to say, hey, let me ask you a question right now, Bob. How hard is it to recruit new talent right now? Are you dealing, because I'm seeing this with all my clients, that not only are people asking how much money is the salary, they want to know what the benefits are. And I'm doing calls for executives to help sell the benefits to them. So maybe instead of we look at savings this year, maybe we look for a better, richer plan that we can, get what we're paying now or a little bit more because, it's going to be worth a lot more money to us from recruiting, even though we're paying a little bit more, because you're paying more for everything with inflation. Nobody ever thinks to sell up. I got many accounts in retail business, especially, here's a key. If you get a contact, HR, CFO, whoever, if they're sick and they're using the plan, all they give a shit about, or the number one thing they care about, is how rich the plan is. They care about themselves because they know how much they're laying out. And I've upsold plans where I go, you know what? Let me go back and look to see if I can find a plan that's richer, significantly richer, but not crazy more expensive.
Right.
And I've won groups that way instead of
Yeah.
going down for savings, planned,
Yeah.
the
I mean,
usual path.
yeah, the questions are so easy. We've talked many, many times, but if you did any kind of homework, you can ask questions that are relevant to that industry, that company. But just in general, I mean, you could just have a simple conversation about, if you had to tell me which of these items are you under the heaviest pressure for? Revenue, profit margin, or overhead? Which one's killing you the most right now? Oh, overhead. Yeah. So what part of the overhead? Is it, your supply chain, providers sticking it to you? Where, right? What's number one? Oh, what's number two? What's number three? You'll have talked about healthcare by then. And so, what happens if you don't change that? I mean, is there some way, are you going to magically, are your salespeople going to wake up tomorrow and be able to sell 25% more new sales easily so that you can cover the increase? Or you're just going to have to eat it and your margins are going to shrink? What kind of pressure is that going to put on you as a CFO? How long you been at that company, by the way? Interesting. Did you know that the average CFO lasts 27 months in a job? Does that concern you? I mean, you want to bring it close to home. Talk about the longevity and job security.
You can even have uncomfortable conversations in renewal meetings, right? You've got a client, they know, they trust you, this and that. Especially when you go self-funding. I always felt you have more leverage when you introduce new ideas. You're self-funding, you're not doing the norm, right? And sometimes you've got to have uncomfortable conversations in renewal meetings because they don't understand it. They're in the annual cycle of, oh, it's a 20% increase. Fuck. What? Again, well, you told me, and it's like, no, let me set you straight. Okay. Let's go back. Let's take a look at where you were before you met me. And this is what we're trying to do with Virtue Health on a lot of our renewals. I've
Yeah.
realized, let me spoon feed it to you guys and give you the illustration to show, because they forget everything. What have you done for me today, John? Right? What have you done for me today? That's all I give a shit about. And so we've got to go back and go, had you never met me, this is the track you were on. Here's where it looks like going down that path. Let me show you what we've done since then. Okay. Yes, it's going up 20% this year, but you're paying less now than you did 5 years ago. Okay. Oh, and by the way, okay, maybe it's a bad renewal. You had a bad year, right? You're pooled, but you're still going to get some sort of increase. What would that look in fully insured? You know what that would look like. But let's also look at, okay, let's look at the claims for a minute, right? Let's dissect the claim. I had this conversation with a group I told you about, one of my favorite CFOs, and I thought I was going to get fired. I pushed the envelope on something at renewal, and I almost got fired. And I had to sell him and have an uncomfortable conversation because he was fighting me. He's very emotional and he gets excited. He's like me, boom, and he fires off emails. You would think he hates me, right? I know the guy. Had a lot of fun with the guy, if you know what I mean. And, you know, I had to go back at him at his throat. I had to fight. I said to fight back at his throat. If I was a yes man, I'm pretty sure I would have got fired because he wouldn't feel
Yeah.
confidence and certainty. So I had to just slap him and go, look, Mike, I don't think you understand where you were. Let's pedal back for a second. Do you remember so and so, that $2 million claimant that we got off your plan 2 years ago? Let's say he was on the plan and fully insured. And we're going to annualize that year over year in claims, because fully insured is predicating your claims on, let's say, $1 million right now, but that guy's 3 million. What do you think the fully insured rates would have been like over the last 24 months? Oh, well, I forgot about that. I didn't think about that. Well, let's go back to let's look at the pharmacy. We've got our lovely partner Sharks in place, and we've got a $12,000 a month med. 100 life group, $200,000 in savings year one with the group. Factor that in to your claims on a fully insured plan, because we forget, we look at claims right now and self-funded, but we forget we evacuated this, we managed this. You're not compounding on those claims. When fully insured, you're compounding on those claims. So again, I had to push back. He loved it. He's like, oh, that's good. That's good. That's real good. And his whole frame changed, but he was like,
Yeah.
fighting
Yeah.
out the
I don't
gate.
feel like I'm getting a good deal here, John. Right. So you had to validate it, and you got to be willing to do that. If you fold like a lawn chair, you're dead. No question.
Yeah, it was. Look, I was nervous. I know it was a big account, pays me
Yeah.
a lot of freaking money, and he's a good guy. We've got results for him. I like him, and you're in a position where it can happen. You can get fired, and I even said, I was like, I'm gonna fly back to go see. I go, well, put me on the phone with the owner. Now, I think they're public. I don't think they're publicly traded, but the corporation is in UK. This is US division, so on and so forth. I said, let me go talk to him. Let me talk to him. And then they're like, no, 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 and so you got to go right at it and have an uncomfortable conversation, because they're getting heat from him and he's out of the loop. He has no idea what's going on. He only hears rah, 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 rah from the employees, and he allows it, which my CFO said is half the problem. And so you've got to go right back at it, because if you just yes man it and lay down, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
No,
all part of the game. Are you a consultant? Right. What was the line you used in Vegas, John? You're a healthcare manager, or you're a healthcare consultant, right? I mean, you manage the
you're a
admin.
benefits manager, or you're, a benefits consultant, right? On
Yeah.
my site, people that
Yeah.
manage benefits, right? And
Yeah.
there's people that provide you the consulting
Yeah.
advice to lower your healthcare costs. There's an accountant, there's a CPA that files your taxes, and then there's a tax strategist that tells you how to save money on taxes.
Yeah.
Those are the two.
And there's a lot of managers out there, and even the consultants, right? I've experienced consultants, right? There's the style where they got 8-inch stack of stuff, right? And they go, here's all the advantages and disadvantages. Here's the pros and cons. You guys decide and tell us, and we'll implement it for you. Or there's the style where they realize if the client knew what to do, they'd already be doing it, right? So they instruct them on what they recommend, and they give them a strategy, and they say, you start here, you go here, we progress into this in a couple of years, and they give them a plan to run on, and they tell them what to do. Because you know what? Somebody's been in HR for 15 years, has done exactly 15 renewals. They're not an expert. Not even close. Even though they may feel like they are.
I think you got to put in the song and dance. Hey guys, if you're listening, you're tuning in live, go ahead and put something in the comments. Are you having uncomfortable conversations? Right?
Yeah.
Have
Like,
them. What do you sometimes when your back is against the wall, you got nothing to lose, you got to fight. Okay?
yeah.
I remember early on when I was so desperate, I was meeting with I just met whatever, 5 life groups. And I would go in doctor offices, right? Worst prospect, doctors, accountants, attorneys, they think they know everything. Meanwhile, we're talking maybe 2012, and the guy was paying a $900 single rate.
Ooh.
And he was telling me everything. He's like, "Well, look, John, we don't need, we don't go to the doctors because I got all my friends and this and that, and we don't need this, and this." And I see the rates go, well, why are you paying for all this rich plan?
Yeah.
And again, he knew everything. He didn't want to hear it. And so I said, you know what? Let me play a little bit. And guys, sometimes when you're in a meeting and it's complete garbage, it's worthless, practice. Practice to see what they see. You got nothing to lose. So I would say with him, I like to argue a little bit. So I said, let me practice stuff. Let me go back at him and see how comfortable I can make. Because quite frankly, if he said yes, I don't want the account because this guy's horrible already. I can tell. Those small groups where the owner does the benefits and you got to deal with them and they think that their case is, I'm the owner and I'm great. I'm giving you business and they're worth $2,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so that's
I'm
what I was
doing
dealing
you a
with.
favor.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it now. Like, it makes sense. But now, now you deal with companies. You're like, well, shit, I'm not that big. I know I'm not worth that much money. I can't kick and scream too much. Anyhow,
Yeah. Well,
make
so
it easy.
oh,
That was
That was easy.
okay.
that's it. Broker's favorite button, man. Yeah. Yeah. So tough questions. Hey, what about HR people? A lot of brokers talk to human resource people, managers, executives, vice presidents, chief human resource officers. And, their world is entirely different than the CFO. And so now you've got, easy layup kind of questions. You know, anything related to diversity and inclusion in today's world is an easy topic, right? Because most organizations have some sort of initiatives going on around that, or at least an awareness. Every journal that they read, every newsletter they get is covered with it. You can ask about the culture of the company. It's like, what are your feelings about your C-suite? Do they see you as somebody who manages expenses or someone who generates revenue for the company? That's an interesting conversation. When's the last time a consultant challenged you? What was that like? What were they selling? What problem were they solving for you? Right? It's like, when's the last time you changed a benefit in your plan? Right? You guys have all shown up to those meetings and like, well, we've outperformed the peer benchmark for the last 5 years with a 2 to 4% increase. Our broker's done a fabulous job. See, now I'd be that uncomfortable guy who'd be like, well, based on the publicly available information, I looked at the last 5 years and on $1 million budget, that was $325,000 of lost profits for your company. And it appears that in that same period of time, you paid the broker $250,000 to lose $325,000. Has anybody ever looked at the ROI on that? Right?
No, they haven't.
That'd be an
They
interesting
don't.
conversation.
I'm gonna, for Virtue Health, I'm looking at renewal right now as we speak. I was working on today, and you know, they went RBP. Okay, so they're running great under the aggregate.
Yeah.
No spec claims. RVP saved a fortune. I think it's like 100 Life Group, a couple $1 million over 5 years. And so I'm going to start sending these guys out a monster check to bring with them to the renewal meeting and go, look, let me show you tangibly what this actually looks like, because this is the results that we've gotten for you. Guys, you're selling every renewal. I don't know why I'm talking about renewals now, but it's just on my mind because we're in the game,
Yeah.
right? Go in there. You're reselling. I tell people you're re-interviewing for your job almost every time you talk to your clients, but at renewal,
That's fair.
it is. You've got to consistently sell them on why they chose you, why they chose what to do is right, and stop fucking looking at everything on an annual basis, because that's just not the way to look at things. And you've got to shift their mindset. I mean, if you don't attack them, if you don't go at them with it, they're never going to hear you, right? When you make somebody uncomfortable, you're just trying to get them to hear you, right? It's just like when you're
Yeah.
telemarketing, the guy doesn't hear you for the first three rebuttals, right? He's not even paying attention. One of my biggest cases was from a telemarketing lead that I had to do a call with because they wanted more info. He couldn't book the meeting. They wanted more health info, and I rebutted them 3 times. And they just fought back. And then by the 4th or 5th rebuttal, they were like, maybe we should look. This is something we should be looking at. Boom. Right? Make them uncomfortable. Make them think a certain different than the way they're thinking, because we're minds programmed and we're just used to.
Yeah. I've seen
way
more
things
deals killed in my world, my wholesale world, from brokers who wouldn't bring in the subject matter expert, us, and wanted to do it themselves, and they can't answer questions. And by the time a client gets to like 2 or 3 questions and you can't answer them, they don't take you seriously. I mean, they don't think you're competent. They don't think that whatever you're talking about is something that you're really serious about. So brokers need to keep that in mind.
I think we'll end it there. We gave him enough. Let me see. We got a comment. Fake share. So true. Now that my book is 2 million, I don't have to work with everyone. Helps you have those tough conversations. Great talk tracks. Yeah, look, guys. I if you're in that realm of where you're growing and you're like, F it, you gotta, because you've got to narrow down the prospect field. You don't have as much time to waste. I don't have as much time to talk to prospects. If they're unqualified, I will not meet a demo with them, right? Because the time is limited. So some of the newer guys, try that route. I'm telling you, your close ratio will go up. The information you get will go up. You can disqualify them faster, right? You won't get whipped around for free quoting and all the nonsense that you're dealing with over and over. And not to say you're not going to make money if you're doing it, because I did, and I didn't know any better for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
But we're telling you, now that we've got
you
this
made
platform,
little money.
What's that? Little
You
money.
made short money. It was small money. All the short money is small money.
Yeah, you want to look at it's hard to progress when you start making more money. It's hard to progress on expenses. You look at a certain dollar amount, that's a lot of money, but it's not equivalent to your income, right? So if you're thinking about investing in your company, if you think about hiring a telemarketer, and you look at it, and it's like, I'm looking at new rent space and $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $5,000, whatever it is. Look at how much you pay daily in income tax and go, oh shit, it's 3 days of the income tax payments that I pay. Look at it that way. What do you think of that, Craig?
I
Good
like it.
stat to look at.
Oh, hey, yeah.
It's disgusting, but
yeah, paying your fair share, brother. So you made a good word choice just a minute ago. Disqualify. So let's just think of the mindset. Instead of showing up to prove how qualified you are to talk to human resources, what if you changed your mindset to show up to find out if they're qualified to work with your firm, your agency, or another way to flip that same coin over is to disqualify them. See, you'll change your attitude. What I think consistently brokers are insensitive to is what is the life of an HR manager? I want you to think about this for a moment. They're in charge of 100,000 pages of labor and employment law, workers' compensation, 401k, healthcare, medical, dental, vision, life, LTD, STD. Maybe they have a stock. Maybe they're publicly traded and they got stock units they have to track. And then they've got hiring, they've got firing, they've got quarterly reviews.
They've got insurance brokers cold
Oh
calling them.
my God. I mean, they have so many competing demands. So when it comes time to think about the healthcare thing, it's like, the smaller the group, that might be a 30-day window. The bigger the group might be a 6-month window. But it's temporary. And then they're on to one of the many other jobs that they have. So that's why it's so important to be able to reach out and get them to give you some sort of an emotional response that means something, so that when they're talking about it and you're facilitating why that's a problem and what happens if they don't solve it and how long can it last before it has to be addressed, and so why now, why change, ultimately why you. And as they're talking about these things, they'll sell themselves on the fact that it's time for them to do something and you're the only one there. So we just need to be more sensitive to all the competing demands that other professionals have.
Maybe have a shot of what is it? Drink a liquid courage before you go in, and go. Who gives a shit? Shout out to Christy. Here she says again. Now my book's 2 million. I don't have to work with everybody. I don't want to deal with it. I realized that actually at a mastermind, and I was stressed the hell out. And I got these couple clients. They were worth more money than me, and they stressed the hell out of me. And more importantly, my employees. And I put the pressures on them too. And they're just like, look, it's not worth it in the grand scheme of things. It's nothing. But if you look at the number and it's 40 grand a year, like it's 40 grand. But in time, remember, it's 40 grand a year. Okay. 3,000 plus a month, but I can replace that very quickly and bring down the stress to me, bring down the stress to them. So you don't have to work with everybody.
Yeah.
You got to talk to everybody. If you're new, you got to, anybody can fog a mirror. But anyway.
But you got a 50-50 shot, John. If you set them straight and you go, this is what a professional relationship looks like. This is what it sounds like. And this is how people treat each other. These are the time frames in which they respond. Right. And it's unacceptable for you to treat my staff in such a way. Right. Or to bang on us. Right. For what amounts to a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being least important, 10 being most important. Every time you call, you want to treat 1s like they're 10s. That is not a professional relationship, and it's not acceptable, and you can't abuse my employees. And you know what? You're talking about that backing down. Whoop. They had a bad day. They just put out a fire and something else hit their desk. They apologize. It's all good. But just be willing to stand up for yourself, and especially stand up for your team.
Yeah, they will back down. Let me show you quick. Look, and then show them the results. If you're as good looking as this guy, John Clay here, you know what I mean? You do what Jerry Maguire says. Show me the money. And any Virtue Health clients, we're going to be sending out checks. We're going to be getting you case studies, write them up for you, pay to write them up, design them. Go there and tout it, okay? Because, like Craig said, unfortunately, in this industry, you're going to ask for increases. You're going to regularly have to ask them for more money, even if it's less than what they should get. You're going to have to ask them for money. So to give back, to show them this, make it tangible, right? A picture of this, make them warm and fuzzy. The HR person. I remember I did a CFO event. I had the HR person was an ex-business owner. She was sharp. That was the one I rebutted on the call. And I brought her up in front of everybody, gave her a check, made her feel all warm and fuzzy. Look what I did. And then she got to go home go to the office and show the boss what she did. Guys, this isn't rocket science, but think from a mental capacity of a human being, what you could do to make them feel better, get more recognition at their company. Because just because you did it and the owner may not see it, you've got to make it tangible and show it and sell it. Anyway, we'll wrap it there, guys. Go have uncomfortable conversations. Try it.
Yeah.
Report back to us. Shoot us your thing. We'll help you with it. We don't mind having them.
If
right?
you get fired,
Sometimes-
blame John.
Blame me. Yeah. Just buy more prospects. Sometimes I just want to be a prick.
It's a desperate problem
because
in the industry.
I can hear through their voice that they're lying to me. I've heard the story before with brokers, and they're telling me the story, and the dots don't add up. And they're full of
8
shit.
out of 10.
They're full of shit. They have no self-funded business. Then they're asking all these questions, and we got to this and that. No, you don't. All right. No, you don't. You're full of shit. And then they get mad at you. But who cares? They're not a prospect anyway.
Right.
They're not a prospect, and your job is to disqualify them. Anyway, we'll end it there. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us, Heads Up Advisor. Keep listening. Keep learning. Keep showing up. You keep motivated. We're here to write new business, teach you to write new business, motivate you to write new business. And we're all in it together. So win the game of sales here. I'll end it there, guys. Girls.
Good night.
Heads Up Advisor. Check us out next week. Same place, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. If we're listening on the podcast, check us out live. We're on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're showing up every week. Make sure you show up. Talk soon, guys. Girls.